Not only are we monitoring a developing National Signing Day soap opera, the type of stuff that I live for, but we are also celebrating another flip. I got my spatula out because Miami took one from the Florida Gators today. Great linebacker edition. Adarius Hayes, welcome to the
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. This is our third stream of the day, and I wouldn't be doing this without you guys, so thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first, second, and third listen and third watch each and every day. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and our National Signing Day coverage has been brought to you today by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. It's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. And I brought help with me for this third stream of the day because I couldn't get this over the finish line without my dude, Brad Tejeda from CanesInsight.com. I also had the pleasure of going on with Brad and Peter Ruiz on the Canes Insight stream earlier today. You guys did a fantastic job, Brad, keeping everyone up to date. This has been, there a lot of stuff that is expected has happened today. There is some unexpected still out there. How have you enjoyed this National Signing Day?
Man, it's been an eventful day, man. First and foremost, thanks for having me on, man. And like you said, man, we've started this day quite very early, about 5:30. I had to start out the Mario way by grabbing me some cortadito and some croquetas. Started out the day high energy. I knew the loafers were going to come out, spatulas, as you know. It's been a great day, man. Honestly, I think obviously the big one in Jeremiah Smith we'll talk about and get into, but at the end of the day, man, what Mario Cristobal and the staff has done in just two full recruiting cycles here at the University of Miami, we're sitting at number 7 currently while we're talking. After tonight, we're probably going to be moving in the top 5, number 4 probably to be exact, and we're still not done yet. We never know what's going to happen in recruiting, and as we know, Mario Cristobal is not going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, right. And so what a couple things Brad is referring to there, by the end of tonight, at the very least, we are still expecting Miami to land Armondo Blount in a double flip, a flip back from Florida State. I know some of you are saying, well, why are you on now? You should have come on after the Blount flip. I'm unavailable after 6 today. So if and when Armondo Blount does flip tonight, we're going to cover it tomorrow morning, bright and early here on Locked On Canes. But the first part of the double flip day has already been completed with Miami flipping 4-star linebacker out of Largo, Florida, Adarius Hayes from the Florida Gators class. The Gators have had some trouble holding on to their players throughout the day today. You guys may or may not have noticed that. But Adarius Hayes, Brad, is a big-time addition. This is a linebacker that Miami really coveted throughout this process. They kept chipping away despite the fact that he's been a long-time Florida Gators commit. We're able to get him to Miami for an official visit this past weekend, finally, when Florida thought he was going to be home in Largo for an in-home visit. They knock on his door. He wasn't there. He was down in South Florida, and he ends up committing to Miami. This is a big-time player, and this is a big-time get for Derek Nicholson, who has been working his butt off on the trail since he's been at Miami.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Coach D. Nick, man. He's been doing a tremendous job. I mean, what we've been able to do from an overall perspective, looking at the linebacker room just 2 years ago, I mean, guys like Corey Flagg was probably the head guy of our group, and there was nobody really to step up behind him. Not to mention a guy like Corey Flagg, there were a lot more opportunity there from an athleticism standpoint to really get some more guys that can go from sideline to sideline. Now, what you're seeing just after 2 full recruiting cycles, you're getting guys that have to fit that 6'2", 6'3" size frame. You have to be coming into the program weighing 210, 220, being able to be sideline to sideline, play multiple positions, whether it's Popo and Marcellus and Bobby Washington from the first class along with Malik Bryant. And now what you're seeing, with Adarius Hayes and some of the other guys we got in the linebacker room. It's a tremendous job what we're doing, man. And Adarius Hayes, that whole visit started back on June 18th of this past year. And, it was a visit that most people didn't think were something. But as we know, Mario Cristobal with relationships, he keeps chopping wood. And in the last month and a half, Miami has felt really good where we were with Adarius Hayes, and he ended up being a Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff there, and great recruiting job. And so, if after flipping Hayes today, like you mentioned, Miami with the 7th rated class right now, if they flip Blount tonight, not only would Miami move up to number 4 at least, but that would also move Florida State downward because Florida State would be losing a 5-star recruit. So, Brad, if things materialize the way I think they're materializing, Miami is going to end up likely for the 2nd straight year with the top recruiting class in the state of Florida, and also for the 2nd straight year, the top recruiting class in the ACC. It goes to show you what Mario is building, right? I know everyone has the complaints about why didn't he take the knee, this and that. The primary reason why Cristobal was brought in here is for program building and collecting of talent. And, a top 7 recruiting class last year, potentially a top 5 recruiting class this year. We'll still have to get a quarterback, and we'll see how the portal shakes out. But from a program building standpoint, Mario Cristobal is pulling off minor miracles down here in the first 2 cycles.
Yeah, I mean, being able to go head to head with schools like Alabama and Ohio State and win those successfully, obviously Kevin Riley flipped to Alabama, but besides that, the hitting ratio for Mario Cristobal against big time opponents like that have been really successful. And then when you really dig deep into it, Mario knew the state of Florida, specifically South Florida, individually in our backyard. This is where we need to start locking things down. And that's where your rivals in Florida and Florida State come in play. And as we saw going back to June, Florida was one of the top recruiting classes in the nation, top 3, landing these 5 stars every other week. And it was like, where's ours, right? Where's ours? Then you look, you go through the football season and you see Florida not doing so well on the football field. Their recruits still somewhat intact, right? Then you look at your rival in Florida State, who didn't lose a football game all year. And now when we get to the recruiting of today, Miami is the one that's successful out of the 3 programs. You look at Florida State, I mean, how bad is it of a program to not lose a football game, yet you don't have a 5-star in your recruiting class right now as we speak? Unless Charles Lester actually did, send those papers, I'm not 100% sure. But if that's the case, then you only got 1 5-star. Then you look at Florida. I mean, I think they lost about 6 guys in the top 100.
Yeah, they did.
Just in today alone. So Miami is sitting in a great predicament. And, with the number 1 player in the nation in Jeremiah Smith, Miami is still not out yet. And we'll get into that.
And we're about to get into that, by the way. So this situation is still developing. It's like, on the one hand, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how many times can we possibly lose out on this guy in one day? Like, I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but guess what, folks? Miami is still battling for Jeremiah Smith. You're wondering, how is that possible? We will explain how this process between Miami and Jeremiah, despite the fact that, yes, I did see him on TV, put the Ohio State hat on earlier today, the process is still ongoing, which means we're only getting started on this episode of Locked On Canes. We got Brad Tejeda from Canes Insight with us. You want to keep it locked right here. We're going to talk about Jeremiah Smith and that national letter of intent next. Right after we talk about the awesome folks at FanDuel. Miami Dolphins beating the Jets 30-0 last week. They won me some money, my friends. And as that weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, so much more, parlays. And yeah, guys, I'm going to be looking at our Miami Hurricanes favored against Rutgers next week in the Pinstripe Bowl. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thank you so much, man, for making Locked On Canes your first, second, third listen, and third watch day. We're live on YouTube, by the way. If you're watching us, me and Brad Tejeda here at 5:12 p.m. on National Signing Day, Wednesday afternoon, make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to use that live chat, which has been firing away like crazy. And make sure you subscribe to our channel, Locked On Canes, on YouTube. And guys, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today, because sometimes I feel like I'm streaming 24 hours a day. I'm not literally doing that. Locked On Sports Today is. This network, the Locked On Network, has a 24/7 streaming YouTube sports channel, the first of its kind. So check out Locked On Sports Today. It seemed like Brad Tejeda and Peter Ariz were streaming for 24 hours. You guys, how long was that broadcast you put in today?
I think it was 8 hours straight. Pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh, man.
We were touching the 8-hour mark, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't be surprised if Peter's over there still going, man. We had Steve Kim on. We had a couple of commits on as well. All throughout the day, I think I ended up talking to about 8 commits in the class today. Awesome, amazing conversations, being able to congratulate them on their special day, man, and getting real, deal insight on how their day went and just the recruiting process, how it came apart, man, and being able to just get familiar with who they are off the football field, right? Like guys like Elias Rudolph, he seems like a very quiet guy, but then when you get to speak to him, man, you can't stop laughing. Guys like Derek Plaz, as you know, he's so vocal on social media. You expect him to maybe not be as vocal when you talk to him, and the guy is more observant and more aware of the surroundings, just as much of a head coach of a football program. So it's awesome. It's great, man.
All right, so the battle is still raging for Jeremiah Smith. Crazy as that may sound, because I actually watched it with you and Peter. We were on the stream of the Chaminade signing ceremony. It was around 12:30 p.m. today. JJ sitting next to his parents. His parents were wearing Ohio State T-shirts. He had the Ohio State colored balloons next to him. He put on the Ohio State hat. He did sign his national letter of intent, but reports start coming out throughout the afternoon. And when I first started seeing this, Brad, I thought it's probably nothing. Like, it's probably people coming up with fake news. A lot of that has been happening, around National Signing Day. People were starting to say in the early afternoon, he's not actually sent the paperwork yet to Ohio, because obviously you can sign whatever you want to. It's not official until they receive and file the paperwork. And interestingly enough, Jojo Trader, who signed his papers to Miami at the same time that Jeremiah did, he sent his paperwork to Miami. It was received and confirmed, probably using the same exact fax machine at Chaminade Madonna that Jeremiah Smith would have been using. But as of, right now, 5:15 p.m., Ohio State has still not received JJ's paperwork. That's number one. The other part of this story is, it is now being reported within the last 45 minutes that Miami has still been in contact with Jeremiah Smith this afternoon. So this is where stuff starts to get crazy. I mean, last year it was Cormani McClain at Lakeland with the cake that nobody got to eat, and he ends up a month later flipping to Colorado. And this year, and I don't know how this is going to end, all right? This could very well end with disappointment for Miami fans yet again. But the bottom line is, the battle is not over, Brad. 5:16 p.m. here on Wednesday, despite 5 hours ago, Jeremiah announcing and signing his Ohio State paperwork. That paperwork has not been filed yet, and Miami is still fighting. Are you hearing the same things?
Yeah, man. As we know with recruiting, man, it never ends until not only you sign that dotted line, but you got to fax and send it in, right? It's one thing to watch a young man sign a paper, but you still have to get it to the destination, right? It doesn't matter if it got ripped up, if it started raining and it got ruined. There's no telling what happened. But what I do know is you have to trust the process when it comes to your recruitment. And I think, as you mentioned, wearing Ohio State hat, family wearing Ohio State, they went through the process, Donno. But sometimes not only do you have to trust the process, but you have to trust your heart.
Yeah.
And sometimes your heart and your decision go two different ways. And I think what you're seeing is here, there's some feeling, not only within the Miami program and the staff, but I think there's feeling within Jeremiah and his camp that maybe Miami Hurricanes is really where he wants to be. And I'm going to tell you this, people talk about, oh, he already signed, I already saw the article. We saw articles in the last 48 hours before this morning, Donno, that Florida State was the head team for Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith was going to go to Florida State. Florida State's the number one team. We found out this morning that Florida State was on the outside looking in. It was Miami and Ohio State the whole time. So you can't go off of articles and reports anymore. People can make whatever they want for the clickbait. And what you're seeing right now is even though he signed with Ohio State, there's still room and opportunity for Miami to get this done. And I think this has all the momentum going to Miami more than Ohio State. And here's why. We have nothing to lose at this point. We already saw him put on the Ohio State hat. Why has he not already made it official? Why has the team not made it official, right? Well, guess what? Not only do you have a fan base that is now aware of the situation that's going to go all in to try and do whatever they can, but you got every staff member on this team that thought 5 minutes leading up to this decision, we had them, right? You saw the gifts, you saw the tweets by literally everybody. The recruiting department, coaches on staff, commits that are currently here. They all thought Jeremiah Smith would end up being a Miami Hurricane with 2 minutes left. And so did a lot of other people, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? There's still a lot of time left. In fact, he's got all the way till Friday at midnight to send those papers. And if he does not, it goes till National Signing Day. Yeah. So we are going to find out how much pressure and what Mario and the staff could really do, because all eyes are now on Jeremiah Smith. And I think Ohio State, we saw in the press conference with Ryan Day how shook he was, right?
Yeah.
He almost fainted at the podium trying to make sure that Jeremiah Smith was indeed a Buckeye. And guess what? He still knew, even though he heard the news, he still knew deep down, right? He even said it afterwards. Well, I don't want to say anything to get me in trouble, because he knew he was in trouble battling one-on-one with Mario Cristobal. And if it's Ohio State versus Miami, I like Miami money line. And until Jeremiah Smith is officially Ohio State Buckeye, Donno, I think we got a chance.
And that's the latest. And I know that there's a lot of people trying to say, well, he did sign the papers. I saw him sign a paper. The issue here is until Ohio State receives it and files it, it isn't official. And that's why Miami has still been in contact with Jeremiah Smith this afternoon, even after his ceremony. And it is being reported that Jeremiah is torn. And I want to make this very clear, and I think I speak for Brad on this one as well. Like, you know, if he does end up signing officially with Ohio State, I'm going to wish the young man the best. Like, I support these athletes. I want them all to make the decision that's best for them and their families. And, you know, you talk about, Brad, the pros and cons. Obviously, the pros to Ohio State are very obvious because they have shown something in recent years that Miami has not, and that's the ability to consistently develop receivers and put them into the NFL as first-round draft picks. That is something that Miami has not shown in recent years that they can do. I think Miami is on the upswing because I love what Coach Kevin Beard is doing at the U, and I love the way he was able to improve so many, or at least how, I'm not going to give him all the credit because they had to do it, but the way he was able to help Miami's receiving core improve and put up big numbers this past year. So I think that there is an uptrend for Miami, but they haven't shown the ability to do that the way that Ohio State has. But then you think about the pros to Miami. First of all, you're talking about a generational player who, you know, has family ties and rooting interests with this program from the area. The same thing that happened with David Stone with Oklahoma. There's always going to be a pull for a generational hometown player to stay home and play for the team that he grew up rooting for. There's always going to be that. And you think about the opportunity at Miami, and I'm not just talking about NIL opportunities and stuff like that, but if he can be part of a generation of players that can bring Miami back to national prominence and help Miami win a national championship for the first time in over 20 years, like how big that would be for Jeremiah, not only his brand, because he's going to be an NFL star in a few years, but, you know, just also for his biography that's going to be written someday, help the hometown team win a national championship. That opportunity is there. So I definitely don't think that there is a bad decision to be made here. I think it comes down to, you know, the kind of the logic, because, yeah, logic would probably tell you go to Ohio State, you see what Heartline has done there. You're going to be a first-round pick, no problem, versus the opportunity to be part of something special here in Miami. There is no wrong decision for him to make. Selfishly, I hope he makes the orange and green decision.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you talk about the opportunity for Jeremiah, right? But this is a big opportunity for Miami, right? For the program to finally get that number one guy out of your backyard. And when you talk about, from a recruitment process, the biggest thing in recruitment is the relationship standpoint, right? And I think Miami has definitely knocked it out of the park as far as Jeremiah and the relationship there. You talk about the pros with Ohio State, having first round wide receivers year in and year out. But I think the biggest pro with Miami has to go back to relationship. And it's not necessarily having faith in the staff, right? But when we usually talk to recruits and high school guys when they're wanting to play with each other at the college level, a lot of times the relationship between the two players is only really 3 to 4 years. It's really only high school, right? But this is a little bit different. This relationship goes back a lot further than that. I'm talking about the Miami Garden Purple Machine Ravens, right? Yes. That relationship is different. So when you have guys like Ryan Mack, OJ, JoJo Trader, Chance Robinson, and even, Coach Rod Mack, who has not been very vocal on social media about the Jeremiah Smith situation, just because people understand how much value he brings into that, the relationship he's always had with Jeremiah and all these guys, the influence. Well, we saw how vocal he was today leading up to signing day. Him, along with everyone, thought Jeremiah Smith would be a hurricane. And I think going back to the relationship standpoint, I think what's really tearing him apart is, it's proven that Ohio State can get receivers there, right? But you have to understand, you're going against your brother's word at this point, right?
Yeah.
At one point, having a relationship for 3 to 4 years is like, all right, man, you go this way, I'll go this way. We'll see you on Sundays. Well, man, you've been growing up with these kids. This is your dream, right? You guys grew up in the sandbox together. Pop Warner. If you don't have faith in the program, if you don't have faith in the coach that's coaching you, that's one thing. But all your boys, all your best friends that pretty much all play the same position with you, they're all there. They're locked in. They're waiting for you. It's your time.
Dude, this is why I had to bring Brad on today. That was so beautifully said, and the connection to his childhood friends and teammates. It's something that surely this is making things a little bit difficult and a little complicated for Jeremiah Smith. And I not only have a spatula, I've got 2 spatulas holding out hope that Mario Cristobal can pull off a signing day flip-miss miracle. I'm hoping he can pull that off. I want to talk a little bit more on the other side, and guys, we'll continue to take your comments on the live chat. And also, if you want to take your everydayer experience to the next level, make sure you sign up for Locked On Canes Insiders. The chat has been through the roof today with recruiting updates and show updates from me. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours. You can click the link in the show description below to try it free for 14 days, Locked On Canes Insiders. And then if you want to opt in after 14 days, $4.99 a month, we give you a lot of added value on there. And yes, be like my guy Andy and smash that like button. But we're not done, because I want to talk a little bit about something we haven't brought up today, because we've been in the weeds with recruiting. And that's the possibility of Miami landing a transfer portal quarterback very soon. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Jeremiah Smith with this whole saga. That's what it is. This whole saga is still unfolding. So we are not done yet, my friends. You want to keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. And I know you're keeping it locked to LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making our third and maybe final of the day National Signing Day live stream. We will be back around 8:30 a.m. tomorrow here on Locked On Canes. I'm Alex Donno, joined by Brad Tejeda from CanesInsight.com. The other thing, Brad, I've kind of swept this under the rug today because we've been, talking about recruits and flips and National Signing Day, players signing their national letters of intent. We've also, throughout the past several weeks, been tracking Miami's quest for a transfer quarterback, right? We've known for quite some time that Cam Ward from Washington State has been the top target. Had an official visit to Miami a couple of weeks ago, followed by an official visit to Florida State. The family has talked about still weighing his options to enter the NFL draft. The intelligence, Brad, we've been gathering for the last couple of days. I take everything with a grain of salt until an announcement happens, but we're feeling pretty good from a Miami point of view on Miami possibly moving ahead of Florida State for Cam Ward in the last couple of days. Is there anything you can share with us about this process and about Ward, what his timeline might look like? Because fans don't want to wait too much longer to get their quarterback.
No, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, if you haven't learned already, especially after today, you can't really trust the articles, the sources that you've been hearing. And that goes right back to the quarterback situation, right? I mean, especially in the last week and a half, there's been so many different articles from so many different platforms, whether it's Florida State, Miami, USC, and others, of what's really going on between the quarterback situation. If that's Cam Ward, if that's Will Howard, or now, a name of KJ Jefferson's now being thrown out there as well. But I mean, just to go back to the main two priorities in Cam Ward and Will Howard, I don't think Miami has budged from those two guys. In all honesty, when you really look at going back to official announcement, right? Until things are official, you can't count on anything. And I think we all have been under speculation that someone in Will Howard was pretty much guaranteed to go to USC at this standpoint. We saw a couple of media outlets saying, hey, he's gotten committed to USC. Well, that hasn't officially been out, right? And until things are official, nothing is really out. And if you really look at it, like I mentioned before on your show, I really thought Will Howard visiting Miami before Cam Ward really brought a big opportunity for him to really have some leverage on his standpoint. And I think to this day, I think he still does have leverage. And here's why. Even if USC wants Will Howard to be quarterback one for the Trojans, right? Who's to say Will Howard doesn't want to be quarterback one for Miami? Who's to say that Shannon Dawson and him are not, the perfect match? Because we all know with a guy in Lincoln Riley, there's no question what's going to happen with him in the next few years, right? So nothing is guaranteed that way. And then not to mention, you talk about NLI opportunities and potentially, the numbers that are being thrown out there of what these quarterbacks are going to get in order to go to a school. Well, I'm pretty good at numbers. And in the state of Texas and California, that's 13% tax on whatever you're getting, right? And if you're getting about $1.5 million to go to USC compared to Miami, you're losing close to $300,000 alone just by making that decision, right? So now you have a little bit of leverage, if I'm Will Howard, to really just take a seat back and see where things shake up, right? So now when we talk about Cam Ward, from Cam Ward's timeline, what we saw from the beginning of when all this started, he was going to go through the process like a normal recruit, normal transfer portal guy, right? It started out with Miami and Florida State, and then it came up, before he got to Florida State, that he was probably going to look at a few other schools as well. Well, once he got to Florida State, all that got shut down immediately, right? It then began to go to, is it Miami? Is it Florida State, right? Those were the two options. Well, then the following day, DJ comes to Florida State, who, again, guys, DJ is actually priority quarterback one for Florida State, okay? Yeah. There's a reason why I'm saying this, right? I want this to all add up. Will Howard and USC is treating Will Howard like quarterback one, okay? Florida State is treating DJ like quarterback one. Who did we roll out the red carpet for and get Ricky Rose, the boss, to come by, right? Lord. Who did we have current players on the team stop by and introduce themselves, right? We treated Cam Ward like quarterback one. So the timeline hasn't really changed. Now what you're seeing is now there's rumors that, hey, he might go to the NFL. He might flirt with the NFL. Well, by this point, talking with Peter, if you don't announce by pretty much January 1st to the 3rd that you're going into the draft, you're pretty much screwed on the capability of getting agents and getting the right people around you to really go to that next level.
That's right.
So that window is closing even smaller. And now it takes me back to what I've seen from this staff, and especially Mario Cristobal, whether it's interviews, whether it's little things that he said, and especially going back to the press conference today that you were at, right? And he said that we were still working on 1 to 2 guys before the night ends, right? Commits, plural, right? But we were also waiting on transfers, plural.
Yeah,
to
that's
make their
right.
way into the program, right? And when someone asked, well, what's going on? Well, there's a process. There's a process to this, right? And unfortunately, sometimes you have to be patient with this process. And what I've seen is no other names have been mentioned on Miami's end. And I think they're very firm on who they want to be quarterback one. And nothing else has came out. And I think it's only a matter of time till things do come out. And I think just from a standpoint of what you're hearing vocally from Mario, staff members, players on the team, everybody's chill. Everybody's relaxed. They're not stressed, right? They're ready. And I think they saw the same thing today going into the Jeremiah Smith recruitment.
Yep.
They sat back through the whole commotion, all these articles in the last 48 hours. Hey, you know, Miami has no chance, blah, blah, blah. Staff sat back. They were quiet. As soon as it became midnight of today, they were out. All of them. Every single one of them. Players on the team, staff members, everybody was vocal. And now that opportunity still hasn't closed, just like the Cam Ward opportunity, it's all gas, no brakes, man. I expect cafecitos on deck, and this staff's relentless. I wouldn't count them out of anything, man, really.
I can't tell you, Brad, how much I appreciate you taking some time with us and how much I appreciate we got over 1,000 people in here. Thank you so much for making this Locked On Canes third live stream of the day, your first, second, or third listen and watch today. If you subscribe to the audio version, you can get us there, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your pods. Make sure to subscribe to our channel there and rate us 5 stars. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe to Locked On Canes on YouTube. And yeah, so folks, I'm going to be back. I'm doing radio tomorrow as well, 10 a.m., filling in for Brendan Tobin on WQAM. So we're going to have a live Locked On Canes. I'm just not going to sleep tonight, basically, but we're going to be live on, I think, tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning. I'm going to have Brian Smith, our recruiting expert, and my colleague at All Hurricanes. We're going to talk. And hopefully, guys, if we know anything more about Jeremiah Smith, if his letter of intent has been faxed to Ohio State by then, or if it hasn't, we'll talk about it. We'll certainly talk about whatever happens with Armondo Blount later tonight, if he flips to Miami or if he sticks with Florida State. And yeah, I'd make sure you guys follow Brad on X at Tejeda Brad. Follow our show at Locked On Canes. We will follow you back, and we will talk to everybody tomorrow morning, bright and early, on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.